And we're live, and we're here with the New Voices filmmakers who just had their films released in Sundance at 10 a.m., 10:15, because we had a little bit of a delay. Apologies for that. We're going to let them introduce themselves here, and we're really excited to have all of them. If we can go clockwise. Clockwise, yeah? And just introduce yourself and the film you made.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Baltasar Klarwein. I'm from Mallorca, Spain. I directed Yo Diablo. Yeah, that's me.
My name's Francesco Felice. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. I directed Low Water Pressure.
Hi, I'm Luisa. I'm from Colombia, but I live here in Toronto. And my film is The Fake Plant.
Elizabeth?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Terry. I'm from Spain too, and I'm from Barcelona. And I directed the Black Wall. It's Llana Negra. It's in Catalan.
Hi, I'm James. I directed In the Back Seat. I'm really excited to be here, and I've managed to see pretty much all of your films in this room, so this is really great for me. I have questions for all of you, so yeah, but thank you for having me. I'm really grateful.
Hi, I'm Melissa Shahin. I directed Late Night Ethics, and I'm from Turkey, but currently living in Toronto, Ontario.
I love this so much. You know, people talk about diversity at film festivals. Can't get more diverse than this. This is awesome. So, James, this is going to be a change of pace. You said you have questions for your New Voices filmmakers. I'm going to let you lead off with the first question.
Okay.
Pressure. Okay. Pressure's on. Let's do it. This better be a good question. I gave you the first one.
Okay. Okay. This one. Okay. I'm gonna start with Balthazar because he's like top slot here. And I'm assuming your film was shot on a Bolex or something similar. And your production design and costume design was immaculate. I mean, it was gorgeous. I thought watching the film that it was a period piece, and then there was a weird cut in with an iPhone that I was like, oh, maybe not. It looked so dated and modern at the same time. It had this beautiful fashion perspective. It was lovely. And it was, you know, I've recently been rewatching a lot of like Godard, and there were so many shots that I was like, I swear he's seen so much French cinema, Italian cinema. It's riddled all over your film. And I really wanted to ask what, I think your background is in a bit of fashion film. Did your background really, you know, influence this film and the costumes in it?
I mean, I'm sure. I think my whole life and all my background and everything I've done is pretty much probably influenced the film from my interest in filmmaking but the thing that mainly influenced the film was the village where I'm from in Mallorca, and everyone who's in the film practically is kind of like a heightened version of themselves. So it was really about capturing the essence and the energy of that place in that time, but I wanted to make it seem sort of timeless. So that's why we really with my costume designers, Bea and Buki, who did an amazing job. They brought over everything they had from Barcelona and on in the island. We just wanted to do something very atemporal, so to mix different styles and have this sort of ambiguity, which is what the film is about as well, this sort of ambiguous, sort of confusing world. Yeah, so...
May I jump in and ask a question off of
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. Let's
Balthazar,
do it.
What was the editing process like for it? And like, how long did you shoot? Because it's just, it's the pacing and the style of the edit is so like electrifying.
Hectic.
Yeah, it's hectic, it's electrifying, but like you can't look away. It's I wonder what that process was like.
I did a first edit myself, which was completely chaotic and really mad and really hard to digest. And then I brought Bernat, Bernat Granados, who's a friend and editor who I've worked with on commercials a lot, and he's worked on some features as well. And he kind of helped me put some structure in it, as well as having, you know, my producer and friends also have inputs on the edit. But it was a long process and very experimental, and it could have gone so many ways because it was so we kind of improvised a lot. There's only 2 of the dialogues that were scripted, and one of this dialogue didn't even really make it into the edit, which is the between Joey and Gray, which was supposed to be sort of like the base of the film. Everything was supposed to rotate around that dialogue, but at the end that kind of ended up condensed into this sort of like 2 minute scene, and it was all more about the world we kind of created around there, which was all about seeing who was on holiday on the island at that time, and sort of had to work around really whoever was available was bringing a bit the characters and the mood. So yeah, the editing was just really long editing, and because we shot for five days, yeah, at the end of August, yeah,
Impressive.
2019.
Impressive. I loved the film, by the way. Yo Diablo is one of my favorite films at the festival, and everyone who asks me about like which block can I skip, I'm like, one of my favorite films is in almost every single block. So it's like we've scattered it out. It's like people think like, oh, they've probably put all their good films here. It's like, no, good films. There's 61 good films at this festival. So I'm very, very happy. I have a question for Francesco and Elizabeth, and it's for both of you actually, because whether you realize it or not, you're both actors who are directing films. So I want to ask you a very conventional softball question, which is how has your experience working with directors who maybe are very good or maybe not so very good helped you become better directors?
I can go first.
You can tag team it. You can debate
sure.
it. Let's get to know each other.
Well, for me, it's the reason I got into acting in the first place was I was in film school, and I think I was telling you yesterday during the meet and greet, Robert. I've always wanted to act, but for some reason, even though this industry is crazy, I thought that going into filmmaking would be an easier process. So I went into film school, and then I couldn't figure out how to talk to the actors to get them to do what I wanted. So I started taking acting classes. And I realized quickly, like, oh, I should have been doing this from the beginning. So 7 years later, after focusing on acting for the last 7 years, I knew that I wanted to get back into filmmaking. And so it was an easier transition this time because I have a background in that. And I knew like you said, like what I wanted I knew how to talk to the actors to get them where I wanted. And I was lucky enough to have 2 really fantastic actors that were also my friends. So we already had a communication built up. And yeah, it makes it a lot easier knowing how to break down the scene as if you were the actor in the scene. And also I wrote it, so it also made it easier in that capacity. But yeah, working hand in hand with the actors as if I was one of them in the scene really was a lot more helpful for me.
Well, Elizabeth actually was one of the actors in her film. She was the lead actress in her film as well as the director. So much to do. So how do you think that helps you as a director?
Yeah, and I write the short film and I produce it. So yeah, because I have a company producer here in Spain. For me, I start as an actress, so it's my first
passion, love.
Yes, it's an actress, but it's so difficult, work. And when you started and I see it's so difficult, and I want to express myself. And at time I said, I need to to be for me. I need to write, I need to express, and I decided to start directing too 5 years ago, no, 4 years ago only. And this Black Wall, it's the second one. I made one before, and as an actress too in that first short film. And right now, today, I finished my third short film in post production. But yeah, thank you. But in this one, I prefer only direct. It's right as a writer and as a director. And I realize it's so useful act for direct another actors, because you speak the same language, because so many times I felt like the director or woman director, I don't understand her or him, because he or she told me, I want this, but explain me. Sorry, my English is
No
very,
problem.
yeah, you understand me. And for that reason, I think all directors a little bit take a little bit classes of act. It's for all the people. Yeah,
I
but
agree.
in the world, I think if more people start doing theater or acting classes, they become better people, because when you act, you empathize. It's a verb.
Yes.
With another. You look at the eyes, and you don't start a war. I think act. It's only a better thing to do if you are as a director. It's better for sure.
We have a workshop at this festival tomorrow afternoon with Strayon Acting Studios. The founders of Strayon are coming on. It's an international acting school, one of my favorites in the world, and they are talking about exactly this. Directors need to audit acting classes so that you can understand what are you asking these actors to do. One of my faux pas as a director in the past has been to overwhelm actors with information. Oh, this is where you are in the script. This is what's happening. This is the next scene. This is how, and then it's like the actor is so confused, and they're looking at you. They're confused. Now you're confused. What am I doing wrong? And the whole thing just spirals to shit. And one thing, I think Kyle Gallner said it last year, and from misquoting, he said, once that trust is lost, the potential for great performance is lost. And the trust is not only lost when a director breaks like an ethical boundary. Like, you can obviously lose trust breaking ethical boundary, but also when a director is communicating in a way that is incomprehensible or not easy to understand for an actor, then trust can also be lost there, because now as an actor, maybe I don't feel like I'm safe. And I need to be safe in order to perform, because then I'm not thinking like, how is this going to edit out and whatever. So it's actually it's very true what you're saying, and I think that's very impressive.
I think, but just going off of what she said as well. Sorry to interrupt. There's something that directors do that I've worked with, that they get very technical about the script and about the shot in general and what they need the scene to play out as. And I think the best directors are the ones, like she said, that have an empathy as the actor to just be like, no, just try to get this from them. Try to get this from them, because when you're acting, you're not thinking about the camera. You're not thinking about the technical aspects of it. All you're thinking about is what you want from the other person, and then you throw everything else away and listen. So like, if the best at directors that I can get in that headspace of like, oh, push yourself in this direction, and they can speak to you on your same level. So like you were saying, taking those classes helps in that way.
Luisa and Melissa, you both made, I think, very remarkably honest films. There's a quote from Ori Aron, who was selected to Pendance 2019. He got on stage and he said something really interesting about his short film, Rubber Dolphin. And he said, oftentimes what's most personal becomes most universal. And there are certain things that sometimes people say that I'm like, I will never forget anyone. No matter what happens to me, I'll never forget that phrase. How do you push past maybe the fear of putting something so personal? Because I sense that your films were dealing with a very personal topic that you wanted to explore. So either order, go ahead. You're both so Canadian. You're not from here, but you've adopted this Canadian mindset of no, you first, no, you first. Okay, alphabetical order. Luisa first. There we go.
It's weird because from the films that I've seen, like the short films, I feel like I don't belong at all. um, um,
That's so sweet of you to say.
it's, I don't know. It's because this was a school project, so it began from all these limitations. We did it in the midst of COVID. So we only have this amount of time to do it, this amount of people to be on set, the money. And of course, when I started in school, I had all these ideas and great things to do, but then it's COVID. Okay, you have to narrow it down to one thing. And it just rolled from there. Like I was living in a tiny apartment with just a balcony. And I was just like, what happened if I get trapped there? But I feel like it was the idea of I'm already trapped in my apartment. And then all of these elements that I really love with, I don't know, like other elements that make no sense, but that's how my brain works. I don't know. It was just putting everything like in a mixing pot, and I just start scrambling and see what happened. To be honest, it was never my intent to do something so personal. It's just as COVID got along and all of my classes, you're supposed to be in film school, and I could never see my classmates. I was never like doing anything. So it was just maybe all the things that I had inside and I couldn't explain being in this new country and everything. I just put them there and create the fake plant. And it's just a weird, I don't know, a weird thing that just came out.
Yeah.
But it was just at the end. It was never that my plan. I start digging, and that's what happens when I was trying to rationalize what I did.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, the very fact that you say that you don't think that you belong at this festival is exactly why you do belong at this festival. Because if you notice, like most good artists feel that way about their work, especially when they compare it to somebody else's work. The other thing I will say is, do you all know why you were selected to this film festival? Like, do you have any idea? Right here. Story over everything, right? So that's all that matters to us is this. I tell you that the simplest way to put our programming into perspective. If we watch a film, do we really have thoughts that are complex about it 2 days later? Did it move us, inspire us, offend us, make us laugh so hard that we were spitting out our coffee? Like, it has to do something. I think art is supposed to move the viewer. So we look at Pendants every year as every film is an opportunity to change somebody's life, mind. So we're just taking shots in the dark here. So we select films that have the potential to do that. We have films where people are so offended by how violent something is that they walk out. But I'm like, congratulations, we've done something to this. This is great. And then we have films, the last thing we ever want is for someone to watch a film and be like, man, that was okay. That's the worst. I think The Fake Plant, it has something. I promise you it's there. And whatever you're thinking, like when you compare it to like other films where like, maybe there's huge budgets or maybe like really technical crew and really bigger actors or whatever, that is not relevant. Is the story is the most relevant part. And I think you've nailed it, and you're exploring something honest, which, that's something we really look for in directors is like, what are you doing with your work? What questions are you asking? So I think that's really important. Melissa, speaking of interesting questions to be asking, Late Night Ethics, I love this film. so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah, it's the personal part of it like comes from not like a direct experience that I had, but it's funny because it was like a combination of two personal things. The first one was this memory of like when I was like maybe like 19 or 18. I had this type of like experience, not necessarily with a teacher or anything. It was like a different case, and it was actually like much more physical than this. And I remember I was just like just talking to like a couple of my girlfriends, and you know we were in a room, and I was like, I feel like I should like maybe share this because honestly, like something like that happens, and like the first thing that happens is like you start to question it in your head before you even say anything to anyone about it. Like it's just so. And then I was like, you know what, these are like my close friends, so I'm just gonna tell them. And I told them, and like their first reaction was like, oh, like, are you sure? Or like, were you drunk? Like, and then you know it was always like these type of questions, and I was already questioning myself, so it didn't go really well. And then like it sort of turned into this part of like, oh, like that's not really even like special. I had a similar experience, you know, like you should just get over it. And this was back in Turkey also, maybe a good context. But yeah, so it was that type of like experience that really disappointed me. And then I think that affected like my relationship with like female friends for a long time. And then once I was in like film school here, I was just like so inspired by all these women and queer folks around me, like just doing so great and like and being so supportive of each other. We even had like a writer's circle in my term in school, and it was all women and queer folks, and it was just amazing. It was just so great that I was like, oh, like, you know, I can combine like these two experiences and sort of make something out of this. So yeah, that's where like the personal connection comes from for me.
So interesting. Thank you for that response. James, to you. Now, the first person who asked the question is the last person to be asked a question. It's very fitting. I'm not surprised that your eye went right to Yo Diablo, because you're a cinematographer who is working as a director on this film, and it's interesting because you also have a film that you also DP'd at this festival where you didn't direct, which is by Aidan Lesser, Barbara, which is a phenomenal film. How do you merge the two? What brings you to directing? What is it about directing that interests you that maybe you weren't getting with cinematography, or was it one of those things where let's just try it? Like what made you think I want to direct this film?
It kind of echoes, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, Elizabeth, and what she said about the, and Francesco said about the idea of empathy on an actor's side. The actor brain is very different from the director brain, and so is the cinematographer brain. And when I first started directing, I felt like the language of camera was something a little bit lost to me. It was difficult for me to communicate to my cinematographer sometimes what I wanted and how I wanted it specifically, right? I wasn't fully aware of filters or gels or lights or what even Calvin was way back when. So I kind of took to cinematography after I had already started directing, because I really wanted to understand that language better so I could communicate with the spiritual warrior creative team that I was working with, so I could learn that camera language. I've known to be a bit of a perfectionist as far as for light. I love lighting. My greatest criticism from in the backseat has been sometimes people are like, well, it's a little bit too dark for me. And I'm like, that's fair. That's totally fair. It's meant to be like a backseat perspective, but it was extremely intentional. And I love lighting so much. I'm like a weirdo for lamps. And like if I go into a house and I see white bulbs, I like freak out. But so cinematography for me was kind of just like a shoe. And then it's much different than directing because it's hard. I'm sure everyone is a director here, and directing actors and managing a production and making sure all of these other things are met while also still being the creative leader is much different than just thinking about camera and lighting and making it as beautiful as I can. So it's a bit of a different job. I love both. I definitely love directing more. It's way more stress, and I'll die at 50 happily, knowing I tried my best. And but I don't even know if that answers your question in any way. But I was excited, so hopefully my answer gives you something.
It gave us a lot. It's not exactly what we asked for, but it went in a better direction. It's like you really should be the moderator of this panel. I feel like you're asking better questions, and you asked yourself a question and then answered your own question, which is great. I love it. Okay, Balthazar, are we fucked as a society according to your film? Like, are we completely screwed? Is this a film about moral decay? Like, because it's interesting what's happening here, right? We're seeing themes. And what's interesting about Penance is you get to see themes that are being explored by certain countries. And yesterday we had Survivors at the LMFAO short blog by Carlos Gomes Trigo. Fantastic short film. And it's about how we're basically screwed as a society. And then we have Yo Diablo. And I'm like, what's going on in Spain right now?
No, I don't think so. I'm more of a positivist than how the outcome or the ending of the film might be like. For me, I think that we're fucked and we're not fucked constantly, and now there's, the world is in a very intense moment, but I have hope, and I believe maybe the apocalypse has always been there throughout history, and we just have to be positive and go and fight through it, or go forward. But it was just the negative side of it was much more of a personal. The film is much more personal. It's much more about me than the whole world. It's kind of like myself reflected in society, and society reflected in me, sort of thing. So it was much more of a personal view on how I was seeing myself at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not that pessimistic in terms of how the world is turning out to be.
There's optimism and pessimism. There's like a seesaw effect. We were talking about it yesterday at our hangout, where we see these films that are so dumbed down, and we don't understand why they exist, but they exist because people are struggling. So it's like there's a balance. But when people are when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's very difficult to aspire for self-actualization when you don't have water, right? So I think it's important. I think that's why I think films that explore ideas that provoke thoughts, they bring people a little bit closer to like that top end of that hierarchy, like understanding yourself. Francesco, it's just kind of going here. We have some audience questions popping in here. Let's tackle an audience question first. This one's from Buena. Question for James. The movie was heartbreaking and funny. You can feel they care about each other, but then we find out what's up. Is there more to this question? Hold on. Oh, there's like a 3-part question. Okay, here we go. Are they in the dark since it is the end of their journey, and is the light ahead since they have that choice to walk into the light?
Oh, I love how meta you're getting with the way you're looking at you're making me look great. I'd love to build on your answer and be like, yes, that was the way I saw it. I would love to have given you that answer. But it actually was just, simply because we're from the back of their head perspective, so naturally the headlights are blasting and it's shadowing them. Not only for that perspective, but the fact that as a relationship, they're, I guess, similar to what you were saying, they're in the dark themselves, and we're unaware of their domestic woes, and they're not exactly addressing, or one of them more is not addressing their domestic woes, and you kind of, it unravels as it goes. So the lighting was intentional for their relationship. So I guess technically what you're saying is true. That was it. Thank you for your question.
Okay, that's more of a comment than a question, but there is a question here. Balthazar is everyone the devil in this world, but he just said he's an optimist. Pay attention. Oh, muted.
Is everyone the devil? No, I mean, I'm sure at some point of the day or at some point of your life, you can feel like you've been the devil, or you can be a being of light, or I don't know. I think we're all everything, and the world can be heaven and hell all in one. So yeah, it's all
How's
about
that for
duality.
meta, James? That's meta. That's big time. You know,
But yeah, I'm the devil.
you're the devil. We're interviewing the devil. Nice.
No.
Francesco, question for you. This relationship between these two characters, was it drawn on anything personal? Let me know if you don't want to answer that question.
No, I'll definitely answer that question. There's definitely a personal aspect to it. There's it's highly exaggerated. Nothing as drastic as what you see in the film, but I actually wrote the movie, the first draft of the film, when I was in the shower, and I couldn't wash the soap off of me, which is like what he's talking about in the film, his like horribly rehearsed statement that he's going to make to her. Because I was in a relationship that wasn't working. I was trying everything I could and felt like I was getting nowhere. We both knew it wasn't going to last, and I really felt like what was happening. So I had the scene start playing out in my head while as I couldn't actually wash the soap off of me, and I was just like, so by the end of the shower, I had the whole first draft in my head. So I went and put it down to paper, and it was horrible, and as the first draft usually is. And I rewrote it, but and added new elements that I thought would make it better and more intense than what was actually going on in my life. Nothing as drastic as like cheating or anything, but yeah, it definitely pulls. I think some of the best writing is personal, like what we were saying earlier. Like it was a story that I had in my head that I wanted to tell, and I think without what was going on in my life, I wouldn't have had this conversation ever play out. So yeah, definitely personal on some level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can sense that. It feels lived in, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Luisa, okay, a lot of genre blending here. There's the comedy, there's old school Hollywood. It's very interesting. So how do you blend the genres and the tone and the shifts? How conscious are you of pacing in your film? Like building points. So one of the little backstory here. So like in 2019, Mark Razzo, he led a workshop on directing beats. And what he was doing was effectively breaking down films. And one of the most fundamental things that every director needs to understand is, what do I want the audience to feel here, 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 and here? That's it. Really, that's directing. So when you're blending genres and you're making people laugh and then making people sad in such a short period of time, how consciously are you thinking of beats?
I'm just trying to give you like a super smart answer, but I just
an honest one will do.
It was conscious because again, this was part of a class, so it's a construction from the script about the beats are really important. But to me, this genre mixing is just part of who I am. I don't know. I love the 50s. I love like that Billy Wilder stuff. Like I'm obsessed, and the humor about it. But then again, I'm also like in love with, I don't know, Ed Wood stuff. Like I'm just all over the place in terms of, and then it's just raccoons with laser in their like laser eyes. So it's just a mixture of all the things that I like and that I thought in the moment she would be feeling, because she was up and down, and she was just basically grasping to all the elements that she loved. I knew that I wanted comedy, and I don't know if I'm going to answer any of your questions, but to me, I tried to, and I heard you all of guys talking about so personal things, and I tried to, despite the story's personal, I try not to go that deep or to put that much thought, because if I go in that spiraling thought thing, I wouldn't do anything. So I just trying to do something light, something fun, something that at times, I don't know. I think I'm just going all over the place and not answering your question. I was aware of the beats, yes, but they end up being something different that from when I started. I
Hmm.
wanted to know that she was in this kind of desperation state, and that's when it's like stages. And when she first tried so many things to leave the balcony and she couldn't, and that's
Mhm.
when she goes into this 50 kind of world that she loves, when it's just, I don't know, Cary Grant coming through the door and rescuing her, I don't know, like something like that. But then when that didn't happen, then she goes into this kind of darker space and she becomes like this zombie bride. And it keeps getting like darker in a sense,
Hmm.
until, well, whatever happens to the plant. And also I come from a long, like 5 years background of doing commercial work. I was just an AD for a lot of commercials, and we have to do a lot of research. So I also have a lot of commercials back in my head,
Mhm.
and so many things come from that advertisement world. So it's a mixture between all of those things, and the beats are just, I try to put whatever I love in each beat, but it
Mhm.
matches her desperation.
Mhm.
Does that? I don't know if it answers.
It does. It does. And you know, one of the things about genres, I think, is fundamentally that genres are for the audience to understand a film, but not for filmmakers. To be so consciously aware of which genre you're in, I think is somewhat limiting to your understanding of your own work. For instance, you probably would not think of Jurassic Park as a horror film, but it is, right? It's like there's elements of horror in a lot of comedies. There's a lot of comedy in a lot of horror films. This is concept of holistic. Yeah, we're just building on this meta thing that you were talking about, James. Like we're just gonna keep talking about this like holistic way of looking at film. But I think it's so interesting. And one of the things that was really important about the New Voices block, I don't know if you've realized this thematic element in your own films, but 5 of you have films about being cornered, right? Either directly cornered to the edge of the frame, like in Low Water Pressure, cornered on a balcony, you know, locked out of your house with the big plant, cornered by a social situation like Late Night Ethics, cornered by an awkward conversation, like the two of Elizabeth and James's films, you know, like a Pending Doom. And then we actually supposed to start the block out with Be Here Now, which is all about opening up. And then we end on Yo Diablo, which is all about like openness and like, you know, this party. And it's supposed to be like a building of a theme in this film. So it's like, what is this block? New Voices, you know, it's exploring a feeling. And I hope that those people who are watching, yes, we have a comment here, very impressive. Thank you, Tamara. Yeah, so that is sort of me waxing poetic here. Melissa, now this is sort of interesting. I'm not going to go into the end of your film, but I love the end of your film. So without spoiling the end of your film, how important was it for you to end on that note after the film that you had made and then ending on that point? Because I would not typically assume that after watching such a film that I would have the last impression that I did. And everyone who watched it on our team was like, that was the perfect way to end that film. You couldn't have dreamt of a better way to end that film. So was it spontaneous? It felt spontaneous.
Well, it was sort of spontaneous because like it was built into the script, but because the whole idea with the ending is like we don't like it doesn't matter if this happened or not. It doesn't matter who's right or wrong. What matters is the fact that like these women are like constantly thinking about this, and like, you know, it's just like a part of their life, and it's not even just like, you know, going by a case by case basis. You know, every day you think about these things and it's a reality of life. So it was more like sort of like to bring it to like a like bigger perspective. Like it's not about this single issue. It doesn't matter what happened here. I mean, of course it matters from in a small scale, but in a larger scale, this is like a bigger problem or like a conflict in society. And in the end, it was more about like the the camaraderie and sort of like knowing that like these things are like it sucks and life sucks and like but it still goes on, sometimes, unfortunately. And and in this case, like it wasn't supposed to end with laughter, for example. Well, this is a little bit spoiling, but so it wasn't supposed to end like that, but we actually ended up having like these long night shoots. So it was all night shoots, so the actors, like, they were having these conversations over and over again, and like in the end, like that's like when they're on the couch, like some of them are actually sleeping and they're like waking up, and then like they actually woke up with the sunrise, and then so we did that scene like a couple of times, and then there are like different variations of it, but we all felt like, oh, like this is the tone, like this is also where we want to leave it, because like I honestly like feel good movies, like, believe it or not. And I always like, in my last short film, I tried to make this like really cute film, like with this guy in the rabbit costume and a girl in a chicken costume, and I thought it was like cute and romantic, and then it ended up being super sad. Like it's just like everything I do turns sad somehow. So I was really trying to avoid that, because like one of my, I think, biggest like tone inspirations is like something like Jojo Rabbit, where like it's heavy and like you feel it and you think about it, but then also there's that little spark, which is like the thing that makes us still want to live. So yeah.
Well, I don't think you want people to want to kill themselves after watching your film.
Yes,
for
exactly.
sure. Like you do want to end on somewhat of an optimistic note if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth, your film is just so beautiful. Like the cinematography and framing. And we were talking about this yesterday, that this festival has become like a breaking ground for so many experimental styles of filmmaking. But then there's still that perfectly pure, crisp image, that is sometimes present. There has to be a place for all cinema, At every festival, I think there has to be a place for black and white cinema and different aspect ratios. And this cinema is such a huge concept. But this film is just so, the layman term, the common term will be professional. It's a very clean and perfectly shot cinematography. Every shot is in frame, focus, perfectly. There's some, I'm a cinematographer, and that shot of the sister, your co-actor, coming to the window of the trailer to knock, the frame within a frame, it's like, this is cinematography 800, like level 800. It's beautiful frames. Does it sometimes, is this a conscious decision to make this film this beautiful?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. When we were shooting, all the time, all the crew said, "This is beautiful." Like in Spanish, no, es bonito, es bonito. It's because I'm searching for that, because in that short film, my goal was all clean, beautiful, the landscape and the situation with my sister, my big sister, and all the script, all the words are thinking. It's not any improvise. All it's like I don't know. If you draw something, I want all inside the line. I don't know if I was, and
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, my partner in my company it's my fiance too, and he's a great director, and he it's so professional. We have a company, so we produce feature film too, but he directs feature film. So when I started in short film, I have the fortune. I have a small crew, but so professional. So for me, it's the second opportunity, but with the people, they have a long history in professional way. So I have this lucky, and I like this kind of film for me. I love all the experimental, and my first film was shot in black and white, so I like all the styles. But for me, I don't know, this kind of, you saying before, frame, like it's photography.
Yeah.
It's my, I don't know, my preferred.
It's interesting because to me, cinema is juxtaposition. The most interesting films are conflict, yeah? So consider, I don't know, everyone a fan of David Fincher films? Yeah, yes. There's no like David Fincher haters here, because they'll kick you out of the group right now. Get off. So what's interesting, and people don't often think about why they can't stop thinking about David Fincher's films, it's because of juxtaposition. Because often you find these perfect shots of very imperfect people, clean cinematography of messy situations.
This is life. We are imperfect human being in a perfect world,
Absolutely.
And we are destroying every day some people, and others we trying to create a little bit in cinema or art. So I think cinema is like this, in a beautiful place, perfection, human beings play something.
Yeah, they're just like with the juxtaposition and what you're saying, it's like there has to be two sides that are battling in cinema. Everything is conflict. Even comedy is conflict. Horror is conflict. Everything conflict. So here, I think maybe it's happy accident for you to have such a professional crew and maybe like the best cameras.
Accident because I'm searching for that. I'm
that aesthetic.
For.
Yes, but it's like if you shoot this film any other way, that impact is gone. So it's like you have perfect location, beautiful, everything is beautiful, but the characters are falling apart and they're grieving and they have this thing between them. And it's the juxtaposition of the most imperfect situation happening in the most perfect place is what throws us off. It's like a horror film that is set in a big, spooky, scary mansion is not that off-putting. It's not that. There's nothing to it. It's been done a million times. But a horror film, that's maybe set in like the most average place. This is what makes Paranormal Activity so powerful for people to watch, because it's the juxtaposition of something happening where it should not be happening. So I think, whether like you appreciate that in your own film, we certainly appreciated that in Black Wool. I think it was really, really good.
I think maybe, I don't know if it's a message in the film, but if it's one, it's like so many times humans are always suffering for something you can change. It's two sisters, like they love each other, but one of them they don't want because I don't know. It's like I want to be in my pain, but why? No, and I think she realized, my character, in one point, it's the stupid thing is continuing in this position, in this attitude. So you are saying it's right, because look at this, it's a beautiful place, you have a sister, she loves you, so change your attitude. And I think in life too we have to improve. So I'm looking for translate this in my short film. No,
Mhm.
it's
Absolutely.
a simple story, but it's a real story. You know, in so many lives. I think.
I think it's so relatable. There was a film last year at Pandance, Too Sunny. Uh, Lovely film. And there were so many people who messaged us after saying that they're going to talk to somebody they haven't talked to in a while because they watched the film. So I hope that maybe somebody out there who has a sister or a brother that they haven't talked to in a long time will watch Black Wool and say, I need to, I need to make a phone call today. That would be great.
How many
Um,
times you think, shit, I have to call?
Life
Uh,
is short.
Maybe I don't realize until now. I think why I wrote this short film.
Did you just figure it out right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Love it. So happy.
Yeah, because I'm living 15 minutes to this landscape, this place, because I'm living in the mountains right now. But I wrote this short film. I don't know. I think in one history, and I wrote it. Okay, and now I realize that 1 year before I wrote, because we shot this film in 2020, so in 2019, a friend of mine died in a car accident, and yeah, you know, life.
Yes.
And it's so many times until that point, I'm thinking, "Oh, shit, I have to call it him more, and I didn't. And now I think maybe it's this feeling inside me. Why I wrote this kind of, you have to change the things you can, because unfortunately I can change Putin is alive right now, you know. But I can change, call my sister or call my friend or call my father or do something. So yeah, I think it's in that point, pain of me, and I stay. I didn't call my friend more, you know, before. So
Mm,
yeah, I
that's
really like that.
that's really interesting, and how sometimes our life events influence our subconscious decisions about the things we want to explore. But
Like,
I think sometimes the best directors are looking at questions, not answers. They're looking to explore questions in their work. So one question that I have to transition that awkwardly from question to question, and it's for James and Francesco. It's the framing in your films is really, it is your film in a lot of ways what you did with the framing. So with Francesco's film, we have characters who are cropped to the edge of the film in a very unconventional way that would perhaps to be some people considered almost experimental or awkward. But what it is unsettling. You know, if I go like here, it's just weird. Like you feel like just move to the center, man. So how conscious was that decision? And was it a collaboration with you and your cinematographer, or is it something that you always had in mind? And with James, can you imagine making a cut in this film anywhere? So those are my two questions. Answer them in any sequence you want.
Well, I almost after I had the first draft, while I was writing the second draft, I realized that if I wanted to make this film, it had to be more than just two people sitting in a room. And I had this idea in my head that I never wanted to show the characters in the same frame together, because they're in a. So if you watch the film, they're never in the same frame until the last shot, and that was intentional because they're refusing to have a conversation between each other. And so I wanted them to have, as they progressed closer and closer to actually having the conversation, they're pressed further and further into the sides of the frame and closer together, so that the only way that they can go is backwards. They're literally being forced to have this conversation. All the space behind them is pushing them together, until finally everything explodes, and then they're like as far into the corners as possible. And I wanted you, whether or not you notice it while you're watching, if you get absorbed in the film, I wanted you to have the feeling that like, oh, this is as unsettling for you as an audience as it is for them. So, because I knew that it would just be another scene of two people sitting in the room talking if I shot it conventionally. I wanted the audience to feel what the characters were feeling, and pretty much from the inception of it in my mind, I knew I wanted to shoot it like this. So yeah, I storyboarded it and everything, and my cinematographer Victor Ollie, who is actually the first person who hired me ever as an actor, he directed me in my first short film. I contacted him because I knew how good he was, and I knew that he could help me bring what I had in my head to life. Yeah, I knew that I could trust him to help me create something really special. So yeah, it was always intentional to do that. And I'm glad that you noticed it, because I'm sure some people wouldn't even know if they feel it. So, but also, yeah, for you, James, I was wondering the same thing. Like, how many takes did it take? How intentional was it? Also, I'm a big fan of Lee. We worked
Me
together
too.
multiple times. Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of the same, but the inverse at the same time as you. It was a conversation they weren't having. I wanted them to be in a pressure cooker, so I didn't want them to leave the space that I put them in. I wanted to kind of force them into one position and never leave that frame to see how they kind of work it out. So the intention of putting it in the back seat and with the camera anyway, and then them in the front was always the thing. I imagined it kind of like a stage play where kind of if you notice, you probably didn't notice, it's a weird detail, but the windows have like this weird plastic sheeting over them. That was to also block lights, but let's not talk about that. But it's almost like a little curtained stage play in the car. And I love just seeing that window into this little relationship that you can't really break away from. And doing it in one take was intentional too. I really wanted you to see it from the back seat, not participate, but really see this relationship kind of reach its end in 8 minutes or 7 and whatever it was, 8 minutes ish, 7 minutes 50 seconds. Anyway, but and it took a lot of takes. Saturday was pretty much like all rehearsal because it was done in a weekend, and kind of figuring out the story had been written, the beats had been written, and then we were trying to figure out essentially how to embellish them more and layer them in more. There's 3 characters in the film. Technically, the radio is like a 3rd character in my opinion. It's actually like the 3rd person in the room, apart from you. But yeah, it was a lot of takes. I really wanted it to be under 8 minutes, so I was always collaborating with the actors. Ted, who plays the driver, and Lee, who plays the passenger. They were wonderful, and I loved working with them both. But I had like a stopwatch in between takes to make sure that we fit like a certain time, to make sure we could try to fit this in a little setting, tweaking here, taking away a joke there. Well,
faster.
Never. It was like, it was to really decide, yeah, like there's a lot of like in the film, there's a lot of jazz jokes because on the radio, Ted loved playing on jazz.
I've talked to a lot of actors and they love being told to act faster. Just an FYI. It's a great tidbit, great directing though, right there. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But that's intense.
Yeah.
That's intense. We were, at our private chat yesterday or this morning, we were just discussing Victoria, which was the German feature shot all in one take. And number one, how much pressure that puts on the cast and crew to get everything so well rehearsed when you don't have invisible cuts like Birdman or 19 and 17 or whatever. Like you literally have to do it all in one take. It's crazy hard, even if you're not moving the camera, because there's so much potential. But then also the payoff is amazing because every time you cut, there's a break in tension. So there's certain stories that really work for it. I think this was one of them. So kudos to you on, sticking to your guns on that.
James, I just wanted to say one thing I really loved about it was that the characters are never saying what they actually mean until the end of I was trying to do something very similar in mine, but like, and that's why once they finally say what they mean, that's why you finally see them together. But for you, it's like you're seeing them both together, and I really love the fact that like you let them hold. It's almost as if you're like sometimes if somebody if you say something to someone and you're waiting for a response, the best way to get them to actually respond is to not say anything. And it's almost like you're doing that with the camera. You let the camera sit there, and because we never look away, the character, the man in the scene has to finally come out and say what he means. And that's something that I really, really loved about your film.
That's super cool. So we're gonna end it off with 2 questions for everybody. So number 1 question is, what are you doing next? And my second question is there a film at Pendance either that you've already watched or you're going to watch that you're really looking forward to, because maybe that director sees it and it's a nice little note for them? So Baltasar, I'll start with you.
Okay. So what am I doing next? I'm writing a play right now with my sister. I'm in her house right now as we speak. That we're gonna perform and direct this summer, in kind of the same location and similar people. So I'm really excited to do something in theater, which I've never done before, and something very ephemeral and something that just put all this work into something that's gonna be ephemeral. And so that's something that's up next. And then as for the films that I'm really wanting to see is all of your guys' film, because I've been able today to see the short films, and I'm just like constructing the films as these interviews are being done, and it's really intriguing. Now I can't wait for tomorrow to be able to watch all of your shorts.
Awesome. Francesco?
At the moment, I'm working on writing a feature, and I have another short that I'm also in the process of working on. And in between, I audiobook narrate and act. So right now, I'm working on a couple books, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching a lot of the films. Anchorage, after yesterday, and after seeing the trailer, was one of the ones that was on the top of my list. But also, it's Lucifer. What is the
Lucifer?
Lucifer. You got me all hyped up on Lucifer. I saw Through the Night a couple of years ago, and I'm really excited to watch that film now. Yeah.
I got him hyped up by telling him it was really disturbing. So it's.
And I saw his film was it 2 years ago at Pendance, and it was incredible. So I'm looking forward to seeing his follow-up.
Yeah, he's heightening his powers as a director of his caliber should. Luisa?
I'm not really doing anything related to film, actually. It takes a lot from me. So only when I'm ready, I'll do it again. But for now, I'm just doing some other things. And then I really want to watch like all of you. I only saw 2 or 3. So I just want to finish yours. And then I really want to see the Midnight Shorts, just because I think I'm going to find more my style there. So that's what I want to watch. And that's it.
If I can give you a film recommendation or 2, Midnight, you're really gonna like Cutter, I think. And Visitors is like right up your alley. But check them all out. They're amazing. I think like all the films of this. People are so annoyed with me. They say, Robert, can you please suggest a film? I'm like, yeah, 61 films. They'll say, no, I don't want all the films. And then they'll be like, I just want 3 films. And then I give them like 80, 30 films. And they're just like, oh my God, shut up, man. But it's so hard to leave anything out. It really is.
I was seeing Visitors, like I was just reading about it. And it's like, I want to watch it.
I know you. Yeah. I don't know you, but I know you, okay? I know you through your work. Elizabeth.
I as I said before, I just finished my third short film. So I think in 2 weeks I start the festival circuit, again.
Yeah.
And we'll see. And I'm writing my first feature film, but this is a long way because I have to write and after find the money. So I hope maybe next year. And I want to watch all of you for sure because as Balthazar said before, now we are talking a lot and I'm excited because I know you a little bit, so it's interesting when you watch a film and you know who is behind a little bit, but I want to watch this. And for me, as in Spain, it's 7 in the afternoon, so it's a perfect time for popcorn for me. So I think I start right now. Yeah.
There's two countries that are really in focus this year, which is Spain and Austria for us. And it's so random, right? I think we have more Spanish films than Canadian films at this festival this year. Like we're talking to 4 of our Canadian filmmakers. You're the Canadians at this festival, okay? Like there just aren't a lot. But it's because of the story over everything, and it's just so impressive to us how consistently Spanish films are just so great. 2019, we had Carlota Pereda, the Cerdita, yeah, and amazing short. And then this year we have El Metido. Sorry if I'm butchering my Spanish. I haven't spoken Spanish in like El Metido. Yeah, and then My Condition, and there's just so many great Spanish shorts here. So it's like, if we were in Texas, we would be rocking. If we were in Mexico, we'd be great. But in Canada, most people speak Spanish. But it's not important to us. When Bong Joon-ho said we have to conquer this issue of the subtitles, I felt that in my soul. I felt this because it's like, there's so many great filmmakers in this world that there's regional festivals in the United States and Canada that have a quota of we can only select one Spanish film this year. It's like, but there's like so many really good ones, like why not? It's like our audience doesn't like subtitles. It's like, then show them more subtitles, see if they'll deal with that. So yeah, so I think you should check out like a lot of films at this festival and shoot us an email. We'll send you recommendations. James?
What am I working on next? I'm currently working on another short about like kind of a grandfather and granddaughter, and it's a little dark, but it's kind of about how she's like kind of visiting him on a weekend, and she's like his whole world, and basically their usual bedtime routine takes a bit of a dark turn when she kind of reveals a pretty horrible family secret. She's about 6. But anyway, that's currently in the pipeline. But I'm really excited also, as Francesco said, to see Lucifer. I saw the filmmaker's other film with Caleb Landry Jones called To the Night. I think it was called To the Night. Yeah.
Were you at Pendance 2019?
I wasn't. I went to screenings. I wasn't at I wasn't in Pendance. But
of
yeah,
course,
like
I would know if you were in Pendance.
Yeah, okay, because this is my first year in Pendance, but I have seen films before in Pendance. But yeah,
you've attended Pendance. You've just never been selected to Pendance. Welcome. It's nice to meet you formally.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
so
me.
Lucifer, right? Okay. Melissa?
I'm currently writing another short that is hopefully going to be animation, and I'm very excited for that one. I've been wanting to do that for a really long time, and at the same time I'm trying to develop my feature into an actualized little treatment, hopefully. Yeah, and I am excited to watch like everybody's films here, because I also didn't watch, and I thought about getting to know the filmmaker before and then watching their films is a completely different experience, you know. So I think, you know, I can have the other experience for the other blocks, but this block I could do this, so I'm gonna do that.
That's very interesting. I will suggest to you, there's a few really good animation shorts at Story Over Everything today. Check that out. I think you'll really like it. It's so inspiring. And Luisa, Memory Makers. You will love Memory Makers. So go watch that film. Anyways, it was such a lovely experience to have all of you on. Thank you for joining us from Spain and from Toronto. And it's just, yeah, we're really humbled to be able to select your films and to exhibit them here in Ontario and Canada. And just reach out if you need anything in the future. Keep in touch. You know, we love if you're in Toronto next year to come to Pendance, get you a pass. You know, hook you up. Like come check out some films in the snow. There's some comments here. Thank you so much. Excited to see everyone's future projects. Very nice. Thanks for doing this. It looked really lovely having all of you, and thank you for making your films.
Thank you, all of you, and Pendants.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye.
See you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
You guys can
Bye.
you guys can